Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Foley Is Pod. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the hardcore legend himself, ladies and gentlemen, Mick Foley. Mick, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. It's a great day to be alive and to be listening to Foley Is Pod.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. We've been looking forward to this one. It's a very special edition of Foley Is Pod today. It's Ask Mick Anything.
This is the first time we've done this, right?
We're going to be all over the place, answering a ton of different questions about a ton of different topics.
And can I tell you something from experience? Everybody has something they like to talk about that no one asks them about.
Right.
And if you can find what that something is, I don't care how big the celebrity is, they will want to talk to you. Case in point, when you're out there on the Comic-Con scene is really cool because of the disparity of people. And I used to look forward to like the Saturday night dinner where you'd have like me and Kevin Nash along with Daisy Duke from the Dukes of Hazzard. We had still a dear friend, Sandra Taylor, who was in a bunch of movies and was Playboy and Playmate model. And then you'd have the heel from Predator or one of the Schwarzenegger movies. One night there was a disparity over the bill. Somebody wasn't paying up, and I think it was one of the stars from like Silver Spoons or something. It wasn't Silver Spoons, but she was like, but I was on Silver Spoons. I used to be on Silver Spoons. And Kevin goes, we all used to be somebody. Like, that's no reason not to pay the bill because 37 years ago you were on Silver Spoons. But I asked Catherine, who has become a good friend over the years. This is Daisy Duke, right? Like, how many young men grew up with
that poster?
Poster, right? And it's Daisy Duke. It's ubiquitous, right? It's like the Blue Meanie wore Daisy Dukes. You don't even have to say Daisy Duke shorts. We all know what they are.
Yes.
So I asked her if there was anything she was particularly proud of that nobody asked her about. And she told me about a series she did with Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum?
Yeah.
Robert Mitchum. And I said, did anybody ask you about that today? Because she saw 300-400 people. She goes, listen, I'm fine with who I am. I said, but it would have been nice. She said, yeah, it would have been nice. So therefore, African Skies is the name of the series. So in my case today, I did a couple of cameos, and one guy said, I just want to ask you about your time on Warren the Ape. And he had me in the palm of his hand because nobody asked me about Warren the Ape, which was I was the second choice behind Jericho to be the guy that Warren bonds with over our mutual anger issues. And if anyone has not seen Warren the Ape, highly recommended. Without Warren the Ape, there's no Ted, because Warren was like a booze-addicted, drug-fueled, womanizing puppet. Ape puppet, and it was such a cool experience.
Did he go woo or anything like that?
He didn't. But just to give you an example, there was a scene where this was not my episode. There was a scene where Warren is at some type of grief counseling, and a woman is explaining how her husband died in a car crash in Rancho Cucamonga, and every time she says Rancho Cucamonga, Warren starts laughing because of the silliness of the name.
Yeah.
So our episode, it was really a lot of fun. But one of the most embarrassing moments of my career, and one of my most painful too, is that I was supposed to go out miniature golfing with Warren, and I was supposed to become really upset when the golf ball that I hit through a giant hamster or raccoon, some kind of this fiberglass creature, gets stuck in the apparatus, and there's me with the golf club going up the behind of the little fellow, and I get so upset that it won't come out. They said, we need you to, what can you do to this? And I said, hey, if it's as fragile as you say, they said, whatever you do, don't touch this thing until it's time. I said, if it's as fragile as you say, I'll be able to drop an elbow right through this thing. And they said, okay, here comes the time. I got the golf club going up this little guy's wazoo. I get so upset. I get the 3-step approach. I take off, get a little decent height for a guy my size, And when I hit that thing, it doesn't give it all. I remember my feeling of my body ricocheting, throwing me to the ground. And I'm laying on the ground saying all those curse words that I ever say in real life. Oh, God, Dad. Oh, my God. It just hurts so badly. Then they come over and they go, don't worry, no one will ever see this footage. And I go, I'm a wrestler. Keep it rolling. And so the footage you see is of me in underwear showing, not my greatest moment, but I was like, I'm so proud of the fact that I said, I'm a wrestler. Keep it going. Yeah, that was a good moment.
I got to see it. I never saw it.
War and the Ape, Anger Management. It only ran for one season. And the cool thing about it, Barry Bloom highly recommended this thing to me. He says MTV's really high on it. I get the script. I said, there's really nothing here. He said, yeah, the lead guy, he just improvises. You think you can play off my? Yes, I can. So it's an actor laying on a gurney, looking up through a series of mirrors that show him me, and then he plays off you. And there were so many takes where they had to stop because I was laughing so hard. And we end up going to a strip club. And it's okay to go to a strip club as a married man if you're doing it on a TV show.
Like we just learned last week with the Freebirds with Buddy, I was working, baby. I was working.
It's working, yeah. I was working the greatest way. So if you're on, what's the big street there in New Orleans?
Bourbon Street.
Bourbon Street. If you're on Bourbon Street and your old lady catches you making out with another woman, just say, I was working.
A brand new shirt available at foleyspodshirts.com right now. Pick that up.
I just have this one for this trip. I don't have the I'm Duding Up shirt.
Or the new one with the King of the Death Match.
Oh,
and now we got
nice
the
one,
I'm working. There's so much good stuff.
A series of them.
Listen, I do want to follow up. You alluded to, and you sort of joked and said it wasn't really silver spoons. But maybe there was a lady once that you went to a meal with and she didn't think she should have to pay because she was on silver spoons. Is that real?
That's real. You can ask Kevin.
And I can't help but notice, like, when we think about celebrities and maybe free food, or you're pretty decked out in Whataburger gear today.
I am.
It's a little unusual.
I wasn't aware of that. And also, it's not often that the Rock's energy drink, Zoa, takes a back seat to the the lemonade light.
So we got a Whataburger giant styrofoam cup, and we got orange glasses. I think they say Whataburger down the stems. And we've got a hat. And you came in here with like a small suitcase. What did you get a free meal today?
Oh boy, I got more than that. As you know,
you walk in and say, I was on Silver Spoons.
Close to it. No, they recognize me. This was like something out of a movie. As we've talked about, I feel like we do our best shows when I'm here in Huntsville, in studio. And we've done a couple really good shows. King of the Death Match was one of my favorites, done from my mom's kitchen. And then the episode I did at my mom's house, prior to that, we had the run-in from my mom and my daughter.
And Noelle.
Noelle. So that was a lot of fun. But I do like being in here. And something was going on in Huntsville that I still can't figure it out. Even at the hotel, they were looking for events. There was no big concert, no reason for everything to be sold out.
Right.
I travel quite a bit, when I log on to a couple of travel sites, you see what you can get, and boom. As you know, I have a favorite in the area.
Yeah.
And that wasn't available. Nothing available. You had to go about 20 miles. Madison is not 20 miles, but it's about
That's 12, a suburb of Huntsville, yeah.
So I got it broken. It was like a 1992 era Foley establishment. Not something I would stay in the current time. Case in point, I thought Mickey was going to possibly be on this trip with me, so I got two queens. I sat in the first queen and it just went boom, shattered. Just not shattered, but collapsed. Last night, collapsed. So one queen out of commission. I had to call up and say, hey, listen,
was it the Spanish one? I'm just asking.
It was a Spanish bed. There was a sign that said, "Stay away from the English."
Hugo took the slowest bump ever behind it.
Hugo he loved it, right?
Yes.
Like, did you see him dive for cover with the cell? He just got out just in the nick of time. But anyway, I contacted you, and you said, hey, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. I said, that'll give me time to go to Whataburger. I go a little bit out of my way, so I'm going to circle up north and then come back down. And I get there. It's brand spanking new. I go through the drive-thru. Nothing. There's no signs, anything. No one working the drive-thru. And when I go to walk in, I can see that it's locked. And so as I'm walking back to my car, the door opens up. Are you Mick Foley? And it was like having the keys to the kingdom. It was a brand new establishment. Official opening date, November 28th. And they were doing tests on the food, tests and training the staff. So they brought me in, loaded me up. The chili cheese burger is incredible with the Fritos on it. Hey, listen, there's not a very good chance that either of my younger boys are listening to this. They're both vegans. Huey, my youngest, prouder of it than he probably should. Doesn't just want to be vegan, wants you to be vegan too. So if he catches wind that the old man was at Whataburger, he'll be hurt. But I have to tell you, it's my exception meal, right? It's my exception. You've been around me when we get the pizza or something. I always just go with the veggie toppings, and clearly if you're eating cheese, you're not vegan, but you can be a vegetarian eating cheese. But I have to believe that any cow would be proud to lay down his life if he knew it was for the hardcore legend. So
I didn't know what to think about you coming in here swagged out with Whataburger gear. But now we're going home with a story. Good for you.
That just reminds me, you asked me, just so I don't want people to think Foley Is Pod is fake, but we did set that up,
A little bit. Because you walked in with a bag. And I thought, what in the world?
I said, that's not all I have, Conrad. And so you said, when should I address this? I said, just when it feels right. And that reminds me. So I realize I can talk about other subjects as long as wrestling is my tether. There has to be it has to come back to wrestling. So my tether here is when Kurt Angle won his first WWE title when I was commissioner. I told him this is when I had kind of free reign, as long as I got to the points. But the verbiage was almost always entirely up to me. And I said, Kurt, the point I made was that unlike when I won the title, there was no one there to celebrate it with him. And what his first title victory is primarily known for is the huge booger in his nose, just nasty. And I said, so I'm going to tell you, I feel bad for you. I wish I'd been there for you, and I want to be here now with a hug. And Kurt says, okay, how long are you going to hug me for? I said, until it becomes uncomfortable. It shouldn't be that way, right? The two dudes hugging but it is. It still is.
Yes.
It's still funny.
Yes.
I will say 20 years from now, it's still going to be funny, even though in a perfect world it wouldn't be, because you'd be like, why are they uncomfortable hugging each other? But with that being said, I will ask permission once in a while and I'm pretty good at picking up on someone who needs a little attention. And sometimes I'll see a young lady, and they're clearly a big fan, and I'll say, do I have permission to lay in the hug for about 15 seconds, because it takes about 15 seconds to transfer oxytocin. Did you know this?
I did not know this.
This is a true story. You can Google it. You can look it up scientifically. It's like the feel-good hormone. And anti-anxiety, stress relief. Yeah, you can transfer that energy. And I'm not a crazy, new age person, but I've read about it, and it takes you can't just do it with a quick bro hug. It's got to be in there for a little while, and that can look weird, even if you're at a convention, to see people hugging for 20 seconds, 15, 20 seconds, but that's apparently how long it takes. So I was just trying to transfer some oxytocin to Kurt Angle while getting a pop for the uncomfortably long hug. And so when he said, how long are you going to hug me? I said, until it becomes uncomfortable. He said, okay, and then what? I said, I'm going to hug you some more. So it was, if you look at Kurt's reaction, it was like, he's such a great comic actor.
The best.
The best. Like, best comedic foil I had to work with. He goes from like content to concerned to mildly panicked to just outright upset, and he finally pushes me away. So that situation reminds me of you saying, how long should we continue this to be interviewed wearing?
It's a fair question.
Orange sunglasses and a
I thought you were going to do a bit where, if you've seen like in high school, a kid who's maybe a big recruit to several schools, he's going to get a scholarship, and he's had multiple offers. Well, they usually have like a little table in front of him, and he'll have hats for the different schools who've offered.
Right, yeah.
And I'm going to take my talents too, and then he'll put the hat on. And I thought you were going to do a gig about, hey man, I'm going to take my talents to the Whataburger.
I'm going to take my talent to South Beach. If LeBron had that one line to take back, right?
That'd be it.
Oh, what a terrible line. But, take my talents to South Beach. I actually did a parody of that my son, when I announced who was going to be inducting me.
Yeah.
And so I called it The Decision on YouTube. It's out there somewhere. So my son Mickey interviewed me, and I was The Decision. I don't know if I was going to take my talents, but I did announce that Terry Funk would be inducting me.
Well, now that you've got your Whataburger, I think now feels like a great time to remind everybody that building a workout routine shouldn't take hours of research. And keeping things challenging shouldn't mean buying even more gear. The Fitbod app creates a workout routine that adapts as you improve and use the equipment you already have. So you can reach the next level without burning through all your free time or your cash. Now, if you're trying to find the right time, or maybe you've been struggling to find the time, well, let me recommend that you can get started and stick to a program, and those are the two biggest obstacles to exercising. But now you can easily create a dynamic routine personalized to your equipment and your goals with the Fitbod app. And this brings along, lots of the natural questions. What are the goals you're trying to set? And what progress are you seeing? And that's the reason I think this Fitbod app is the move. My wife's been using it. She absolutely loves it. She's got all the data, everything she needs. And what's really cool about this is you just add in your equipment, you pick a fitness goal, and Fitbod creates the routine for you. Whether you've been missing gym time, maybe you've hit a plateau, well, a fresh start has never been easier. The app switches up your exercises to avoid overtraining or burnout, and your program changes based on your personal progress for maximized results. A full year of Fitbod is less than the cost of a single session with a personal trainer. Think about that. A full year of Fitbod, less than just one session with a personal trainer. So join Fitbod today and create a routine that grows with you without slimming down your wallet. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app free at the link in the description below, or go to fitbod.me/Foley. That's FITBOD.me/Foley, or just check out the link in the description. And maybe we might need a little Fitbod after the Whataburger.
After this,
huh?
oh my goodness, they gave me an extra one, and it's so good, the chili cheese. What's the over-under on how many weeks it takes Fitbod to discover that you and I are probably not the best guys?
Probably the one where you ate Whataburger during it, if I had to guess. But you know what? If that wasn't the funniest ad read we're going to do in a while, I mean, that's an all-timer. That's as good as hot tag for your wiener.
Hot tag for your wiener. That should be a T-shirt right there.
Oh, we can do that. Hot tag for your wiener. Right now over at Foley Is Pod Shirts.
So, hey, listen. I'm going to make a commitment to drop some weight. I put on a lot of weight during
2023,
the pandemic.
that's the goal?
2023, I got to be down. I got to be under 3 bills again. I got down as low as 238. And yeah, when I was the commissioner, and I didn't think it was a good look for me. You know, it's not the look. I don't think people liked me as much. I think 275 is my, would be the ideal. But if I'm under 3, I think I'm good. Well, the weight I'm carrying now is too much for my knees and my lower back. When you're breaking beds, you're going through the Spanish-speaking bed.
You could have blamed the Blue Chew, but the wife wasn't in town.
There you go. Yeah. But I'm going to Fitbod. Okay, Fitbod. Okay, with all the apologies to DDP, I'm going to give Fitbod a try, and I'm going to cut back on some of those late night excursions I do. Oh, the damage I do at 3 a.m. sometimes is just,
really. What's a 3 a.m. routine look like?
Oh, well, I used to take Ambien to help me sleep, but it has that. This is years ago. It has that quality where it shuts off one part of your mind, but not the other, the primal part, which is why some people get it pulled over for sleep driving or driving without realizing. I mean, that they're conscious of it, but they don't remember it. So this was my second late night sleep eating binge where I was essentially eating without realizing it. And my daughter filmed me because the previous time it had scared Mickey that his dad was out there going into the refrigerator, like just item after item. It's just whatever's in there is going down the hatch. And so my daughter, remember when I did the pickle juice?
Yes.
I did that because my daughter recorded me drinking a jar of pickle juice that I had no memory of. So, but even today, I have a tough time sleeping. I always have. And it's like it goes through your mind. Maybe I ate good all day, healthy wise, got my vegetables in there. My A1 greens, which sometimes help sponsor the show. I really like those. But man, all logic goes out the window. When you're on the hunt like that, there's really no stopping me.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
You might actually, you might have a different variation. You might have CT eat. I mean, I have no memory of eating that.
That's right.
CT eat.
It happens. You don't want to be in between me and a refrigerator at 3 or 4 a.m. It's really bad. And my kids do an imitation of me. Oh, buddy, come on, I had a food binge. I've woken up and I've found every single thing from the mini bar. They don't do that much anymore in the hotels.
No, they
have the $10 Milky Ways and all that. But I would wake up and I would see every single edible gone. Talking not edibles, but potato chips and all that. So now if I am in a hotel room that offers that, I call right up and I say, please remove this from my room. It'll never make it through the night. And then you have to pay the bill, like $150 for a bunch of snack foods, Yeah,
which doesn't work if you're staying at, we'll call it, I don't want to say a name, but maybe it's a worst Eastern.
That's where I stayed last night.
With the Spanish announce table bed. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but thumbs down,
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were doing them a service when you didn't want to say their name, so I thought, we'll give them a gimmick name. It's worst Eastern.
Although there's a tremendous Best Western on Sunset in Los Angeles, and it's at the time it was so economical, but it was a beautiful Best Western. That was the best Western I've been. But last night, I don't know.
Well, just so you know, and I guess we can do this since we're just sharing with the audience. You're welcome to stay at my house.
I am?
I just assumed that this was since you're a big-time movie star and all, that it was your preference. But I know back in the day when you were Frugal McDougal, you were sleeping.
I was couch hopping. Do you know why I stopped?
Why?
This is a true story, and I've told it before at a few of my live shows. I won't tell the name of the indie manager. He's deceased. It wouldn't be fair to him. But he was a good guy, and he was a pretty good manager. He was a magician.
Okay.
So he would use a foreign object and make it disappear, which is a pretty cool gimmick. I could use a cane, boom, it's gone. And so I was staying. It's cooler and funnier to say you stayed on the couch instead of a spare bedroom. But I usually stayed in a spare bedroom when I stayed with fans. And I was WWE champion. I'm staying at the house, and about 8 in the morning.
Can you imagine? Let's just imagine. It's 1986, and Ric Flair wants to know if you've got a spare bedroom. You can imagine.
I was in limousine riding, couch surfing, and woo!
Gonna have a few friends over. There won't be nothing left in that mini bar either. But anyway, continue.
So about 8 a.m., people start coming by the house. And I thought, this is it's not my house.
Oh, he was doing a meet and greet for you.
It's what it seemed like. And I don't ever want to talk down about any of my fans, but this was kind of a ragged-looking group of people coming by early in the morning. And so later that night when I was back home, he called me up. And I remember thinking to myself, hey, you're the WWE champion. Who the heck are you to look down on anyone because of the way they dress or look, right? It's I had to really have that talk with myself. And so I went out and I met some people, and they didn't seem that into me like I thought they would be, given that they'd come by at 8:30 in the morning to meet the WWE champion. So that night,
by the way, you're not a morning person.
Not a morning person at all.
Yeah,
not a morning person at all. That's why we always do these at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Now, 4 or 5 a.m., I start getting drowsy. So he calls up to apologize, and I said, hey, it's understandable. This is probably the only opportunity they'll have to meet the champ. And he goes, they weren't there to meet you. And I said, I drew a blank, right? I
What
said,
does that
"Well,"
mean? Yeah.
He said, my girlfriend's a crack dealer.
Oh.
I went, and I'm out of here. And I never stayed with the fan again.
He said,
my girlfriend's a crack dealer.
I don't know if we can put that on a shirt or if it's wise to put it on a shirt, but that's the most shirtable thing we'll say to my girlfriend's a crack dealer. That might even be the title of the episode now. My girlfriend's a crack dealer.
So that was when I had a long look in the mirror. I said to myself, "You're Mick effing Foley, and you will become
a 2-star man."
2-star man. Yeah. And now I'm a 3-star man. Yeah. You get down to 2 1/4, 2.5. I have to think about whether I need to be there.
The worst Eastern, how many stars was that?
It was it's
probably falsely advertised as a 2-star.
I would say, it was the room itself, the bed that didn't collapse, comfortable, but everything about it was just dingy. Mm-hmm. I'm the only person, I believe, to ever downgrade willingly, because the Nature Boy gave me a call years ago, said he'd been called away to join the WWE tour. He had a booking in Nashville he wanted me to take. And you have a driver at your disposal, everything, that you can want. And then I called him. I was like, I don't like the 5-star hotels. I'll take a 4-star. I don't want the big lobby.
Yes.
If I'm with my wife and we want to live it up, we'll go. We'll make a night of it. But I actually asked to be downgraded.
The idea behind the big lobby is you don't want there to be a crowd after a show or something. You just want to get to the room.
You know what? Once I'm off the clock, I just like it to be quiet. I love the lobby with the bar. Means there's a higher likelihood of rowdy people and drunk people. So in my 2 to 3-star quest, I try to find the quiet places that do not have a bar.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, let's jump into it, boys
All
and girls. I'm excited to do this Ask Mick Anything. I don't think there's any way we get to all these questions. We've got so many, but there's a lot of good ones.
All right.
Joe wants to know, what's a typical day at Knoebels like these days? The rides, the food, etc.
Oh, man. So it's with a K, Knoebels.
There you go.
It's an amazing park in Elysburg, Pennsylvania. This is where I think my favorite episode of Foley is Holy Foley was shot for my birthday there. I went in 2000, didn't come back to 2008. I think we've been there every year with the exception of the pandemic and one other year. It's such a great place. Family owned, family run, no parking fee, and no admission charge. Now you can buy a ride ticket for the day, but they are in a small community. They really like their regulars, and people know they can come and watch their grandchildren, for example. For free. You can bring your pets. Some people come just to walk their dogs. Some of the best food you'll ever taste. So now that I can't do the big coasters, not because of my girth, but because of the head injuries, they do have a great ride called Flying Turns, which they built themselves at their own lumberyard. These are some really do-it-yourself people, right, with an incredible work ethic. So I'll usually bring my kids, and I'll watch as they do. The Phoenix is a great roller coaster. The Twister is a great roller coaster. Love the log flume there. Every year, maybe we can flash this up, for our fans when it airs. Every year we take the log flume photo. And it was only about 4 years ago my kids caught on that I wasn't really scared. But for years, I would just, on the way up the hill, I go, okay, what scary face am I going to do now? And I had a great variety of scary faces. And one time I overheard my son Huey talking to Mickey, wondering why Dad was able to be thrown off the top of a cell, but he was so scared of log flumes.
Well, he's applying a little logic. You're busted. I can't help but follow up there. And he said, I can't ride the coasters anymore, not because of my girth, which is where I thought you would say, but with my head injuries. When did that start? When did you have to give up coasters?
About 2012. So that was, I did a memoir, my Santa memoir, knowing that people weren't going to read it, knowing this is a really small part of the Foley electorate. But I talked about what a big deal it was to have that opportunity to portray that character, because it was a tough time for me. I'd been, granted, I made the comeback so often, it wasn't even a comeback anymore. But still, retiring in a neurologist's office, shaking a neurologist's hand when he said you should never wrestle again, that's different than deciding for yourself that the gig is up. And it was also a time when I had a real aversion to bright lights. So there are some photos taken when I was doing the one-man shows where I'm in sunglasses, which is a ridiculous look for me, but I couldn't take the lights. And one of the drawbacks to TNA, which I didn't know at the time, I didn't know why I was getting these terrible headaches 2 days into a 4 or 5 day run, is because TNA, they were really accessible to fans. They did the meet and greets. Probably too many meet and greets. Like if you came away from an Impact show and you didn't meet 6 wrestlers, you hadn't tried very hard, right? But they would do the meet and greets and everyone had the flashes. Now it's different with the cameras don't need the flashes as often. But it was like, whoa, these blinding flashes were coming at me. So the first 2 days of the tour, I would be fine. I'd be having fun. And then the next 2 days, I didn't want to be around people. I mean, I had the, serious ramifications, and I was also getting concussions just about every time that I wrestled.
Wow.
And you still have that old school ethic. I've got one more left in me, and you don't think that, when I came to the conclusion, when I wrote Countdown to Lockdown, and I wrote the sentence, there was a match, King of the Mountain. And I know we're veering way off the Knoebels question, but I think this is pretty interesting and pretty relevant. The King of the Mountain match, I got my bell rung 3 times during the match. Now, on almost every other occasion when I felt like I was lightheaded the next day, had a minor head injury, I would be able to look at the footage and say, okay, that's where it happened. And in this case, in all 3 times, I was thinking, I think they missed a camera shot. What happened? Samoa Joe, just regular forearms. I was like, wow, is he stiffing me while it was happening? And then I look at the tape and he wasn't stiffing me.
Right.
It was just that it just didn't take much to rattle me anymore. So on all 3 occasions, couldn't figure out the source of the bell ringing. And then I finally realized, I get it. It takes less and less to hurt me worse and worse for longer and longer periods of time. And one of my big regrets is that the moment I put the period on that sentence, that should have been it.
Yeah.
Once you know that's the gig is up. And instead I did a few more. But that was a really difficult time for me. And so in rapid succession, I couldn't wrestle. I couldn't do, at the time I'd been an online volunteer for a group called RAIN. But the computer was giving me bad headaches after about 10 minutes. And the roller coaster, everything a lot of the things that I enjoyed. And because my lovemaking was so passionate, there were often some injuries involved, and I had to, all right. So, but anyway, it was a tough time for me. And
you
the
had
Santa,
me in the first half. You did.
Everything I said was true up until the lovemaking part.
Sometimes that crumbles in your hand. That's what it is.
There you go.
That was fantastic. Instagram a wrestling historian wants to know, how long did it take for you to write Have a Nice Day, Foley Is Good, The Hardcore Diaries, and Countdown to Lockdown? Most of our listeners will never write a book, so how long does that take?
You know what? I was always like a flurry of activity for a short period of time. And then every time I was done, I'd be convinced I'd never write anything again. And then eventually I'd find something I wanted to write about, even the 2 novels. Have a Nice Day took me 50 days because I was on a deadline. 200,000 handwritten words in 50 days. That's really saying something.
Yes, it is.
Foley Is Good took about 6 weeks, 150,000 words, 6 weeks. Wrote it without even telling the publisher. I was working on a follow-up, so it wasn't like I had a contract for it. I just came to them. I said I wrote a sequel, and ended up doing really well. The book did really well. Hardcore Diaries was it was a diary, so I can't remember what day it began, what day it started, but it was in the 6 to 7 week period, and then Countdown to Lockdown was still in that 6 to 7 weeks until I hit the final 2 chapters, which I needed some time to do. And that took me a couple extra weeks. And even the novels I wrote in, a 2 to 3 a month window. So, yeah, I was always, just from the time, whatever it took, 13, 14 hours a day of handwriting, I was on the case. So,
wow.
Yeah, they didn't take me long. And that's just the way that I worked. Other people, have a writer's room they need. And so when I was asked to contribute to an article about like writer's rooms and to show a photo where I wrote, I took a photo of an airplane seat because so much of what I did, especially in Have a Nice Day, was written wherever I happened to be. So I was talking with my daughter about that the other day, and I said, yeah, honey, wherever I was, I wrote dressing rooms, hotels, airplanes. I remember getting a flat tire and no longer had the expertise to change it. And while I waited for someone to come, I sat there and wrote. When I had my knee operated on, I said, I can't have any pain medication. They said, well, you're going to be in a lot of pain. I said, I understand, but I'm on a deadline. And so literally I came out from under the anesthesia and I had the notebook there on a table with a pen and just picked it up and started writing. That was my way of doing it, but other people have different methods.
Well, let me talk about another method of shaving here because we've all endured the pain of a cheap razor, the nicks, the cuts, the irritation. And we've talked about it before. I just hate the subscription model, man.
Yeah.
I wound up with way too much and felt like, wait, am I really getting the deal I thought I was? Well, that's why I think you got to meet Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer. It has in fact made parts for the International Space Station and even the Mars rover, and now they're bringing that same precision engineering to your shaving experience. I just recently learned this. Razor blades are like diving boards.
Yeah.
The longer the board, the more the wobble. The more the wobble, the more nicks, the cuts, the scrapes, the irritation. A bad shave, you see, isn't a blade problem. It's an extension problem. And by using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, which is less than the thickness of a human hair. And that means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. And it gets better. This razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. Seriously, Henson Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business. That means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, and no planned obsolescence. The Henson razor works with standard dual-edge blades to give you that old-school shave with the benefits of new-school tech. And once you own a Henson razor, check this out, it's only like $3 to $5 a year to replace the blades. And I have to admit, I was skeptical. I didn't understand how something could be less than the thickness of a human hair. It's legit. I'm sold. And here's what I really love. It's like $5 a year for the blades. How do you beat that?
Yeah.
And it's time to say no to subscriptions. It's time to say yes to a razor that will last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/Foley to pick the razor for you and use the code Foley, and you'll get 2 years worth of blades for free with your razor. Just be sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/Foley and use the code Foley. hensonshaving.com/Foley. It's a shame you didn't have those back in the day when you really needed them.
I was going to say we could come up with a T-shirt which says, me with a little taped up gizmic saying, I don't always get color.
But when I do, it's Henson Shaving. I love it.
Second thought is, if you saw my mind wander when you said diving board, because I realized at the age of 14 when I was getting to know my body a little bit better, and I think you know what I mean?
Yeah, all time.
Yeah, I used my penis as a diving board for my Action Jackson figure. Action Jackson was like a knockoff of G.I. Joe, and so I was just laying there and just using...
And you'd launch him?
It'd launch him. He was doing flips. May have been the first moonsault
You may have created it.
Yeah, I may have created it.
Forget Muda.
Yeah, forget Muda. Yeah, and Muda may have created the moonsault through the same method. I don't know.
Yeah, so let's talk about your penis when you were 14 years old. Are you doing these diving board routines?
Just once.
You just did it one time?
Just one time, yeah.
But was it in a bathroom? Or are you just like in your bed learning?
I was in my bed getting to know myself a little better and spied Action Jackson. I got easily distracted. So there is a story in Have a Nice Day about getting to know my body a little bit better, listening to Barbara Mandrell sing "If Loving You Is the Problem." I don't want to be right. She had that wholesome sexiness.
Yeah.
And then I spied my Coleco electronic football, which is like the state-of-the-art game. And so I opted away from the getting to know you process, started working on the Coleco, and my mom walked in on me naked playing electronic football. And
We've all been there.
We've all been there, right?
Yes.
So I was saying, now this is the tether, right? People don't tune in to hear me getting know my body a little
Yes,
better.
they do. Yes, they do. This is Mick Foley After Dark.
The tether is, the story I was telling in the book was about working with Sam Houston, which was going to be a big match for me because I'd heard that Watts's group with Bill Watts's Mid-South was pretty high on me as like a lower to middle card heel. They gave me Sam Houston to work with because Watts was expanding his reach because the oil business was down. So the traditional strong towns were really hurting. He had that great syndicated package, and they started trying to run shows in some of the places where the Mid-South show aired, and one of which was Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So I'm against Sam Houston. I can't talk to him. We're in different parts of the building. So here's a guy I've never met. Can't talk to him. I asked Michael Hayes for advice, and he says, yeah, Sam likes to fight up from underneath. You know, maybe we grab a bear hug or something like that and let the fans get with him. So I called a bear hug. We were having a pretty good match for two guys who'd never met, and I'm an indie guy, a few years of experience. And I called bear hug, shoot him into the ropes for the bear hug. And as I'm shooting him in, he says, watch the elbow. So I've seen Sam a dozen times since then, and we always reminisce about it. And as he's going to the ropes, I'm thinking to myself, watch it do what? And he wanted me to duck it, you know, so I duck it, and then he comes off grabbing the bear hug. And instead, I sold a phantom bump. I sold a phantom elbow that had to have missed me by this much. And I just felt all the air in the room just deflate. And we tried to get him back. But by then it was too late. I was just forlorn. Oh, and it probably set my full-time wrestling career back a year. Yeah, because clearly, I needed some more seasoning. There you go.
Did, I hate to bring it back to this, but did Action Jackson see any other action?
He was sidelined after that.
Yeah.
That was a one-off.
Yeah,
it was a one-off. I don't feel comfortable.
Did you leave him on there just long enough to where you got uncomfortable, like Kurt Angle in the hug? Then it was time to dive off.
This was my first time experimenting with my own body. I didn't even know what the heck I was doing. Didn't understand this.
You're trying to figure out how things work.
Yeah, it was my first time.
Not to take matters into your own hands.
But not my last, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that East Western was, that worst Eastern.
No, I'm too old for that stuff now, but...
J.M. Wagner had a great follow-up to another question. He says, can you talk about the possibility of your first book, Have a Nice Day, becoming a movie back in the day? I heard you once tried to write the screenplay for it. Who would you have wanted to play you in the movie?
Man, I did write a screenplay. I still have it out there, handwritten. I remember Barry giving it to someone. He said there wasn't a story arc on it. I was trying to get WWE.
I think there is.
I think there is too, because what was nice about Have a Nice Day is that it ends right out, with me winning the title.
Yes.
Which is, I think part of the reason that some of the books by the career-defining wrestlers don't work as well is they're trying to tell a 40-year story in 60,000 words. That's the traditional model they want. And when mine came in at 180, I say 200,000, it was 180,000. They were contemplating lopping off, just cutting it in half. And WWE lobbied and said that the random sidebars were part of the charm of it, and we got to keep it as it was. So I thought the story did have an arc to it. I mean, I thought, it was going to begin with the loss of the year in Munich, Germany, and like a Scorsese-like telling with the woman in Germany, the Krankenschwester or nurse, telling me, showing me the year, me attempting to keep the year, struggling in vain for the German word for formaldehyde. Can you imagine what that thing would get on eBay now?
Dude, it'd be
crazy,
huge.
Right? And then she threw it in the garbage can, and in my version, it would be like you could actually see it, like, and hear it going through the air and depositing in the bottom of a medical garbage can. It never went any further than that. I don't know. I know we were thinking of Patricia Arquette to play the role of Colette.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if I ever had any actor in mind for me. There was another project that almost came to fruition.
Who would you pick, though? Let's think about that. Let's do that exercise. Jonah Hill? He'd be great, wouldn't he?
Jonah Hill as Mick Foley?
Come on.
The kid with the afro?
Yeah.
Like, not the thin Jonah Hill.
Well, his weight fluctuates. I don't know if you can identify with that.
I see, yeah, but I know I would not think Jonah Hill.
He's a great actor.
I just don't see him portraying the hardcore, and he's not a wrestling fan. There was a reason why Jonah Hill was advertised as the guest GM. Remember when they had the guest and never aired?
Oh, I didn't know that.
The guys hated working with him. Yeah, there were some that they like Hugh Jackman, Dynamite,
Fantastic.
Muppets. They loved almost everybody. It was a good experience. Jonah Hill was one. He didn't even make the air because he apparently just didn't want to be there, and it showed. I think somebody saw him mouthing to his agent, "Get me out of here." So no, I wouldn't. I don't know. I really don't know. I know.
John Goodman?
You're going with the beefy guys, huh?
No, these are great actors.
They are great actors. Joaquin Phoenix at one point for the second project. There were a couple other actors, but it never got to that point.
Maybe Ryan Reynolds.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Or Gosling, one of the Ryans.
We got there.
Yeah.
We got there. We figured it out. Chris Brooker wants to know, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Chris Brooker, I got a shout out to Chris, who booked me on my first UK tour.
Really?
Yeah, so that kind of opened up the doors for a lot of people. I'm telling you, within a day when it was obvious that the tour, I mean, these 300, 400 seaters, and it was the first time anyone had done it. They didn't even know what it was. The price was low, included the meet and greet and all that stuff. And so the shows sold out quickly, and within one day, Chris was getting inquiries from some of the biggest names in the business wanting to do tours as well. So a big shout out to Chris. My go-to karaoke song, well, you've heard me sing a few of them. There's about 10 of them I love doing, but I think, Turning My Way into Birthday is probably my favorite song. And when I was in Australia, I'm even putting down the Whataburger for this.
Oh, Whataburger's getting pushed aside.
When I was in Australia, the first night, we had someone doing the birthday. I did the dudes wishing you a happy birthday. And then the next night I did Sinatra's My Way. For those of you who don't know what it's like, maybe we could throw up a clip, but it's pretty epic. And I did that, and the promoter goes, "That's the one you have to do." And I kid you not, when I see what we do in wrestling is about suspending disbelief, right? So when they get a cameo and I'm changing characters quickly, they know it's just me with a wig. But on the other hand, it's like, just suspend disbelief. You're seeing Mankind, you're seeing Dude Love. And so I would have the Mankind mask, which now has been beaten up so bad that I can kind of just place it on instead of pulling it on. And when I get to a certain part of the show, this faithful earth stay, but much more than this. Ow! Today's your birthday. And within 2 seconds, I would reach for the mask, throw off the thing, and the next time they see me, which is 2 seconds later, I say, "Yes, there were times you slipped and fell, like the time that I was thrown off the cell." And the crowd would pop like they were getting a babyface run-in.
Yes.
Like it was a Tony Khan surprise type of thing.
There you go.
So that's Chris, that's probably my favorite. My Way, but I'll also tell you this, for people looking for Christmas gifts, the Let It Snow karaoke by Dude Love is priceless, and we will do that one live. If somebody wants to request Let It Snow on cameo.com/Mick Foley, we'll do it live, and you'll see why it's so much fun for me to do.
I can't wait. I want to remind everybody, if they are looking for some Foley shit in time for the holidays, you got a big auction coming up this weekend. Yeah. Highspotsauctions.com. It's a virtual signing. Unfortunately, you won't have a formaldehyde-soaked ear there, but we do have lots of cool High Spots Mick Foley swag at highspotsauctions.com. It's this Sunday.
Yeah. Michael at Highspots does a great job of finding cool items in addition to the pops, photos, and things of that nature. They have the Heimlich. No, I'm going to be okay. They have the turnbuckle pads. They have a lot of cool things. I really like being in there. It's kind of like being in a wrestling museum.
Yes.
It's really cool. Last time I did it was a benefit for one of the guys that needed medical help. Disclaimer, 100% of this money will go to the Foley Pizza Fund. It's a very honorable, it's a good way to spend your money. But this one's a for-profit enterprise. Nothing wrong with making a little money once in a while, right?
No, sir, not at all. Speaking of making a little money, how about Sean Cold here? He says, for the Royal Rumble 98, was it always the plan for the three faces of Foley to enter? Or did two guys get bumped to make room?
Do you know Sean Cold on Twitter, he was the great actor who was in Out of Compton?
Straight Outta Compton?
Ice Cube's son?
Yeah.
On Twitter, he's Sean Cold. Great actor. But anyway, I know, look, when they do the gimmick battle royal, there's the feeling that, guys are not getting paydays. There's a time and a place to, you want guys to get paydays. But if you can come up with images that last for 25 years or more, you've done something right. And I think whoever came up with that idea, technically, I guess we were costing two people paydays. But I think it's, in that case, you're in the movie making business. You want to do the best movie you can. And that was a cool idea and one well worth doing. And it's one of the, I think, top moments people remember from the Rumble all these years later.
No doubt. And we're about to celebrate the 25th anniversary of that this coming January.
We sure are.
I don't know if you heard, but there's a Royal Rumble going down again this January. Wouldn't you know it? What do you think? Should we try to do like a live Foley Is Pod in San Antonio?
Can we do it?
I
may be there anywhere on assignment for a project I'm not free to talk about. So I might be there anyway. I would love to do, and to me, Royal Rumble is the second biggest show of the year.
I love it, and it's obviously synonymous with your success, and this is the 25th anniversary. I say me and you, we endeavor to get us a venue, and maybe in the coming weeks we'll announce the very first Foley Is Pod live show, Royal Rumble, for the 25th anniversary.
Let's do it!
Looking forward to it. DJ wants to know, what was your first time meeting with Terry Funk like? Was it an instant friendship?
Yeah, it was. It did seem to be an instant friendship. This would have been late '89 when I first got to did my tryout match with WCW. I don't remember meeting Terry that first night because he did the Saturday night show with Chris Cruz. And I thought they were a good team. And Chris Cruz was really good, and he was out of wrestling fairly quickly, but I thought they were a good team. So it would have been a week or two later. And, I liked Terry right away. Terry liked me. So I remember Terry and I talking at Ric Flair's 42nd birthday party. Rick had that nice suite. He always had the best suite, right? So I got the invite to the 42nd birthday party, and Dennis Brent was talking with me. Dennis Brent, he did the programs in World Class. He did the magazine in WCW. He booked talent, and he was a man of many talents. And he came over and he asked Terry, he said, "Do you like Cactus because you see something of yourself in him?" And Terry paused for a second and said, "I don't see shit in him." But yeah, it was a pretty instant friendship.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. And I'm glad to hear that Miracle Brand is going to make us feel a lot better. Check this out. Did you know that traditional bed sheets can harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat? It can lead to acne, allergies, and stuffy noses, and it's just gross. Miracle Brand offers a whole line of self-cleaning, eco-friendly bedding like sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent 99% of bacteria and require 3 times less laundry. Using the silver-infused fabrics originally developed by NASA, Miracle Brand sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with natural silver that prevent 99.9% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tags of luxury brands. Miracle Sheets are the perfect gift for your spouse, your friends, or family. Who doesn't want better sleep and luxurious feeling bed sheets? And since these come with 3 free towels, you get 2 gifts in one just in time for the holidays. It's also better for your skin too, so stop sleeping on bacteria. Clean sheets mean less bacteria to clog your pores, fewer breakouts, and other skin problems. And I want you right now to go to trymiracle.com/Foley. That's trymiracle.com/Foley to try it today or gift it to someone special this holiday season. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Save over 40% and be sure to use our promo code Foley at checkout, and you're going to get 3 free towels. By the way, Miracle's so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you're not 100% satisfied, you get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Brand. Go to trymiracle.com/Foley and use the code Foley to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Foley to treat yourself, a friend, or a loved one this holiday season, and we thank you, Miracle Brand, for sponsoring today's episode. Adofik writes, if you could face any wrestler today while you were still in your prime, who would it be?
Oh man, I would love to work with Moxley, Bray Wyatt. I imagine the promos could be really cool. And I always liked working with people who had polar opposite styles of mine and then putting a little of my own style into it. So somebody like Darby Allin would have been great to work with. And Ricochet, if he had had a hot program coming out of the gate, I think it would have made a big difference. I can't stress enough how important it is to have one of those great marriages quickly and establish. A lot of guys, I think that's the only thing missing was that great rivalry right out of the gate.
Here's one from J.S. Trudel. He wants to know, what finishing maneuver would you be happy to never, ever take again? I don't think you're taking any more finishing maneuvers.
I'm not, no.
But is there one that you hated more than the others?
I didn't hate it. A choke slam was difficult because, unlike, say, like a suplex, you were absorbing that impact from your shoulders all the way down your lower back, through the buttocks and your feet, right? A choke slam, basically, you're taking all the impact on a small section of your back. And especially in the old WWE rings before they changed them a few months after the sell, just taking a choke slam, if it came landing on one side or the other just slightly, you would feel it for a few days. And I remember wrestling The Undertaker in Fayetteville, North Carolina, just a regular choke slam, which was not the finish. We went a few minutes more, but I could feel this internal bleeding coming up. And I finished the last couple of minutes with looking like Dizzy Gillespie on a hot trumpet solo, because my mouth was just full of internal blood. I made it back to the dressing room. I knew enough. I knew WWE frowned on the blood at that time. Made it back to the dressing room, went to the thing, and just spewed blood everywhere, just from a simple choke slam. And that's not a choke slam on the ramp or anything of that nature, but that's the answer. That's a tough one to take, because if you take it wrong, you're going to pay for it for a few days.
Speaking of bumps, Will Hackett wants to know, that bump on SmackDown in the Buried Alive match from the stage to the grave, how bad was that to take?
I got a good story here.
Shout out to Whataburger coming through. It's not even an open Whataburger. Mick Foley got the VIP
Yeah, I did.
tour.
I got the VIP treatment. Barry Blaustein, director of Beyond the Mat, leaves a message for me. And I've done a couple favors for Barry over the years. This is not meant to be funny,
right.
Although just I got a message asking if I could meet a friend in Seattle, and he said it was a friend of his son's whose brother had been decapitated by Al Qaeda. So this is, and now you know, this is the worst possible thing a mom could go through, or a brother. That, I remember that being, it was really difficult. So I asked Brendan Burns, who was with me traveling, can you please handle this lunch for me? You know, please, like, I don't know what to say. And so we met with, Jordan was his name, and the mom was the first time she'd left the house. It'd been a couple months. First time she left the house, and we were doing 2 shows that night. And I try to mix up my sets, so I'm not doing the same set. And I asked the mother if they wanted to stay, and for some reason I had a really nice suite, like a Ric Flair level suite. And so we had like 3 or 4 people come over, and the mom took her shoes off, and for a few hours it took her mind off what she was going through, and I thought that was one of my proudest moments. And I remember she had given me something, you know, that she had made. I've lost it. I can't remember if it was a necklace or a ring or it was a band. And Colette, my wife, goes, so who gave you that? And I went, she goes, never mind. You know, you just answered. And I said, hold on. She said, no, you don't tell me. And suffice to say, she felt kind of bad when she heard the story behind it. So that was one of the instances where Barry Blaustein called me up and asked me for a favor. This one was a little easier. He said, I hate to ask you for a favor, but I'm doing a film for the, oh, wow, am I going to forget his name? Geez, how can I? One of the most powerful men in all of Hollywood. Imagine Entertainment. The guy who's not Ron Howard. Imagine.
Brian
Grazer. Brian Grazer. He goes, a guy I work for, I wonder if you could say hello to his kids, meet his kids. His name's Brian Grazer. I get on the phone and say, you want me to meet Brian Grazer? And he says, would you be willing to do that? Yeah, I think I can meet Brian Grazer. So I get to the Imagine, you know, beautiful building and overlooking LA. I get to the lobby. Oh, Mr. Grazer is waiting for you. I go up there, and I can't say if he had more than one son, but I do remember one son. He goes, I have a question. He was about 8 or 9 years old. He goes, did it hurt? And I was like, okay, I've heard this one before. He said, when Big Show threw you off the stage into the grave. And I was just so relieved at that question. This was at a time when I still held that grudge against the cell for being the only thing people wanted to talk to me about. And I said, you know, I was just so happy I made it into the grave. I don't even remember it hurting at all. It was just a feeling of relief.
We made it.
Yeah, we made it. So Show talks about that because what I lacked in physical skills, I made up for in imagination. So there's a lot of people who could have made that if they thought of it, but no one would likely think, what if I could make it off the stage into the grave? So Big Show clearly helping me with that launch, but that was a long distance to go for a guy without much spring in his step. So the final answer is, I don't remember if it hurt. I was just so relieved to be laying in that grave. One hopper. It was a thing of beauty.
Garrett W. wants to know if your career in pro wrestling didn't manifest for one reason or another. Did or do you have a secondary dream you wanted to pursue as a career path?
If it didn't work out in front of the camera, I wanted to be behind the camera.
Okay.
So a great period of time for me was in World Class. The end of November of '88 through August of '89. And I was giving myself till I was 26. That was to start making a good living. I love World Class, but we're making $300 a week, you know. I'm working 4 days. It wasn't the 350 days that some guys talk about. It was 4 days a week, $75 a night. But I loved it. I was learning. I was working with great baby faces. Man, I had some great baby faces to work with. But I thought, if I don't start making a good living by 26, I need to find something else to do. And that something else for me was going to be behind the camera on the production end of things. And I would go in 2 times a week to the editing suite at Las Colinas outside of Dallas. And I would watch a video of Bob Von Gursky put the show together. And the more time I spent, the more hats he gave me to wear. So if you go back to the old World Class tapes, I did some of the voiceover work.
Wow.
And put together a couple of the video packages. So that was what I did. I do believe in a backup plan. Some people think if you have a backup plan, you won't strive to succeed. I believe if you have a backup plan, you'll work even harder. That was just my philosophy. I'm going to go all out, and I know if I don't make it, there's something else I could do.
Well said. Too Old Scorpio. Great question here. He says, hey, Mikey Whipwreck was a far better tag team partner than The Rock, right? How fun is that?
Mikey was great, but oh man, the Rock and Sock connection was tremendous. But Mikey and I together, Cactus and Mikey, that was so much fun. Playing off Mikey, cutting promos, like dead serious promos about Mikey leaving extra Doritos in my car. And the more ridiculous the subject was, the more effective in some ways, as long as I delivered it from the heart. But I love working with Mikey, and he was a great hand and a great bump taker and a great character.
WSD says, in Foley Is Good, you said you felt you shared a kinship with Tony Soprano. Given how that was around season 2 of the show, have your feelings changed now that the show was over?
I can't remember the kinship I felt, honestly. Can't remember it. So I don't remember what I was talking about when I wrote that. So maybe a follow-up at another time. I did mention to you a couple weeks ago, I met James Gandolfini.
Yes.
And I complimented him because had it not been for watching The Sopranos and seeing that Tony Soprano barbecued with an old-fashioned Weber kettle grill,
yes,
that I would have gone and bought one of those incredibly expensive things. People put tens of thousands of dollars into their outdoor cooking things, and I just went old school Weber kettle grill because Tony Soprano did.
I love it.
Saved me a lot of money.
Justin Hanna says, what was your favorite memory of working in the Memphis territory?
Leaving it?
Yeah! Boy, that's a clip for YouTube right there. I love that.
Listen, I made my peace with my time in Memphis. I did not enjoy it at the time, and I wrote about that in Have a Nice Day. But it was a great learning experience. You're working different city. You're working the same city every week. You're working Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis on Monday, Louisville Gardens, which is now the Yummy Center, which I refuse to say. It's always going to be Louisville Gardens to me. Evansville on a Wednesday. Steve Austin wrote about how dreadful Evansville is because that's where he got paid. And the paychecks were small at the time. Every Saturday night was Nashville, every Saturday morning Memphis studio. So you ran your 4 towns every single week, 2 spot shows a week within a 300-mile radius. And because you were working the same city every week to essentially the same fans, a lot of the same fans, you had to find ways to make your matches different, sometimes like in Nashville where you couldn't see your opponent at all, and you had to come up with something different on a weekly basis. So it was a great learning experience, but I did take note of how I did not like being treated and vowed that if I ever made it big that I wouldn't treat people the way that some people treated me there. It was a little...
less than.
Yeah, a little bit of anti-Northern bias I felt. People telling me I was working a Northern style. And I'll go on record as saying that I did pretty well for myself.
Pretty good. Joey wants to know, why did you start wearing the dress shirt and tie over the brown Mankind shirt?
Instead of the brown Mankind shirt.
Yes.
That was supposed to be a nod to the corporate Mankind. Remember when Vince made me his guy? And so when Vince... I think I was wearing the shirt and tie when I lost to The Rock at Survivor Series.
That's right.
Or had I started that match, I started that night with the tuxedo.
Correct.
I was told to go out and buy a suit, and I came back with a tuxedo. So I think that was the first time I wore it. And when I was screwed over that night, I decided to keep the shirt and tie as like my homage to the corporate Mankind gone wrong. So that was the idea.
Eddie Prather, friend of the show, says, Mick, how much did being around General Akbar and Gary Young help you in your development as a wrestler? I thought you and Gary were a very underrated tag team, and you would have worked as a team in any era.
Yeah, Gary was a super talented guy. I see him when I go through Little Rock. He manages a Chili's out there. He was a great ring general, always knew where he was in the ring, could work with anyone, and we were underrated, you know. I was lucky I got the nod. I went to Continental from World Class, then I got the call to go to I did the tryout match in WCW, but I think we would have gotten over as a tag team. Probably, we're a hard-working tag team. We sold well for our opponents. We had some good offense by the standards of the times. And General Akbar was just, to have a guy with that much experience and to ride the roads. I usually rode. Sometimes I rode by myself, but a lot of times I rode with Akbar and Bronco Lubitsch. And aside from Bronco doing 40 in the fast lane, it was such a great learning experience. And there were times like as a rib. So there were many times, dozens of times, they talk about a foursome. Bronco Lubitsch, Akbar, Cactus Jack, the Great Muda, when he was the Black Ninja. So we did a lot of road trips together. Muda's English was really limited, so he couldn't say that much. But we had a heck of a time together, and I really learned the importance of saving money. Akbar and Bronco were notoriously thrifty. I remember coming back to visit when I was in WCW in 1990, and Bronco pulled me aside, cut a promo on me, like just a promo ahead of time, just telling me that it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you save.
Yes.
And he was like, don't you dare go out and buy a fancy car. So those lessons really hit home, and Ak was one of those guys I did the free show for when I finished my run, and I did one for Corny. The people I felt had helped me out along the way, that was my way of thanking them by doing a free show for them.
Speaking of cars, Brad Stanton wants to know, do you still have the minivan from Holy Foley?
No, I don't. That thing stopped working. And my kids, as much as they demeaned it at the time, the younger boys really liked it, had great memories. They wouldn't let me get rid of it. I called Ben Brown from WWE Archives to see if they wanted it. He got back to me and said they were going to take a pass. And eventually a wrecker came and took it. Yeah, it just didn't run anymore. At a certain point, it became more expensive to keep it on the road than leasing a new car would be. And it was getting dangerous. It had almost 200,000 miles on it, and it was always in need of a repair. But I got it with 17,000 miles, so I put about 180,000 on it.
You got your money's worth out.
About 150,000 miles. That was a really good, dependable car for me.
Jeremy Priest wants to know, I'm a huge John Arezzi fan. Do you have a story you can share about John that maybe we haven't heard before?
John Arezzi at one time was like the William T. Murrow. I'm getting confused with Alfred E. Newman. Murrow was a great journalist, so he was like that at the time, 1990. Probably the first show that was talking behind the scenes and
the forerunner for podcasts.
I think so. I got a lot of reps in. One of the things that the guys, men and women of this era, don't have is the ability to get those reps in so that cutting promos becomes part of the muscle memory process. To where they can go, I need 30. That was so valuable to me. 30 seconds on Montgomery, boom, 2 weeks from today. 1 minute on Birmingham next Saturday. When you had to be able to come with a start, a point, and an ending right on cue. So I feel really fortunate that I had literally thousands of reps in by the time, I got to WWE. And one of the ways I got those reps before I got the chance to do those local promos was by guesting on John's show, where even though it was catered to, it wasn't catered to smart fans, it appealed to smart fans because there was insider talk. But at that time, you were able to be on the show in character,
yes,
but give honest answers. And that really worked out well for me. So I think a story about John that people don't know But I dropped an elbow on John at an indie show, and we turned it into an angle. It was funny how you can kind of, I guess they do the same thing where on Busted Open, they did the thing with Thunder Rosa having the match. So you can still work an angle on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could turn on you in a heartbeat, right?
Well, I hope not.
I won't, but I could.
I'll keep that in mind. CJ wants to know, what would you say is your most positive contribution to the wrestling business? That's a great question.
It is. Probably expanding people's ideas of what a big star could look like. That was probably the biggest.
Well, everybody knows they look like Ryan Gosling, they look like Ryan Reynolds. You gotta have Ryan quality.
Yeah. I did not have that at the time, and that was what they're looking for. And so I think I expanded, opened the door for guys to follow, like a Kevin Owens, like a Bray Wyatt, who might not have gotten a look as serious as a star. And I'd like to think my lasting contribution is that I think I treated people well when I was on top. And that goes back to remembering how I was treated in Memphis. And Memphis was 88. And by and large, Robert Fuller was great. You know, there was a couple people made life a little more difficult than it needed to be on me. It was already tough. You know, you're making no money. You know, you're getting beaten up. You know, I took the big bumps there for very little money. And I do remember in 1990 sharing a room with Ivan Koloff, who was a former WWF champion, ended Bruno Sammartino's 7-year run as champion. And he was such a nice guy. I remember laying down in my bed thinking, if I ever get to be a big star, I'm going to treat people the way Ivan Koloff is treating me, because I like how this feels. And that's what I tried to do. So hopefully that's my lasting impression, contribution among the boys, the men and women in the ring.
WrestleManiac wants to know, what were Mick's thoughts and feelings on TNA when Hogan and Bischoff came into the company? Did you think they elevated the company, or does Mick agree with the criticisms that Hogan and Bischoff's TNA run?
The criticism, I don't know the criticism. I know there was a book about him. Look, I remember Dixie calling me saying, I just wanted you to know before you heard it, we hired Hulk Hogan. And ironically, or just coincidentally, I had just come from a store at the Smith Haven Mall where Hulk was going to be doing a book signing. Went into the bookstore and asked if Hulk could sign a book for me for a friend of mine. So I literally just come from the bookstore, heard the news. It's hard to pass on a guy like Hulk Hogan. What it meant for me personally was that I went from being the one non-wrestling talking guy to being within a couple, to suddenly become
Flair, Hogan,
Bischoff, and I was the fourth non-wrestling talking guy. So it wasn't good for me personally. I don't know the ratings and the buy rates and things of that nature, so I can't tell you whether it was positive or negative. I really can't.
Well, what I know about that's positive is when you're looking for a bit of a change. And lots of adults choose to use nicotine, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And not everyone uses nicotine, but if you do, you'll want to listen up. So get ready. This is an ad for Lucy Breakers. If you're one of the millions of adults who are already using nicotine, you know that not all products are the same. And there's one new product that stands above the rest. Lucy Breakers are the only nicotine pouch that give you a blast of flavor from the first moment to the last. Each pouch contains a capsule that you break open to release a rush of flavor that doesn't fade away like those other pouches. The ones that rhyme with thin. They come in so many flavors: mint, berry, citrus, mango, even espresso. And you don't have to run down to the gas station or corner store to get them. Just order online and they'll be shipped right to your door. Every order gets free shipping. Plus, if you subscribe, you'll save 15% and never run out. So whether you're using nicotine while working, creating, or playing, Lucy Breakers is the intelligent choice. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Get $10 off your first order when you use our promo code FOLEY at checkout. And remember, shipping is always free. That's lucy.co. The promo code is FOLEY to receive $10 off and free shipping. Visit lucy.co for more details, and we thank Lucy for sponsoring the podcast. Now, here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's lucy.co, and the promo code is Foley. Michael wants to know, what would be your dream match today with active talent?
I kind of already answered that, right?
Well, I think it was about in terms of who you would want to do a program with.
Oh, this is a dream match?
So just a one-off, just a match.
For me or for somebody else?
For you.
Oh, man.
Like with a program, I feel like we're going to build it for 3 or 4 months, and there's promos.
Well, I'd go back to the same answer, you know.
Really?
Either Moxley or Bray, I think, would be great opponents for me.
Here's one from Stu. What gimmick match did you never compete in, but you feel like you could have made the most magic in? War Games, Elimination Chamber, something else?
I did do a few War Games on house shows with WCW.
Okay.
I liked those. Yeah, I would have liked to have done Elimination Chamber. Yeah, I never got the chance to do that.
Did you do a scaffold match?
I did. I broke my wrist in Fort Worth.
That's right. We talked about that.
Yeah, with me and Akbar against Eric Embry and Percival Pringle III, who we know better as Paul Bearer. There's very little visual evidence that Akbar and Percy were in the match because they were on the scaffold, like laying down most of the time. And I just remember Eric saying, "You ready, baby?" And my body was kind of swinging back and forth. So I wasn't like stationary.
Down, yeah.
So that when I fell, I was falling, not I want to say face first, but front first. And when I put my hand down, you know, broke my wrist. Still worked for a couple months with the cast on, proud of that, and eventually gave a 10-week notice because I told Frank Dusek my wrist just isn't healing. So I'm proud of the fact I gave a 10-week notice because of a broken wrist that wouldn't heal.
Wow. DB wants to know, what was your inspiration for Bang Bang?
I've told this story before, but I dropped a heck of an elbow on Nasty Ned Brady at the Dorton Arena in Raleigh. This is when Kevin Sullivan and Cornette came up with that great idea for me to turn on my tag team partners, thereby giving me a push while losing matches. Dropped a heck of an elbow, 10 to 12 footer on Nasty Ned, who had some of the greatest facial expressions of any of the underneath talent. And the song Love Shack just came to mind. And so the first time I said it, it wasn't bang, bang. It was bang, bang, bang. And you could actually hear me say,
yes,
on the door, baby. And then that became bang, bang. But November of '89 would have been the first time that I said those magic words.
Greg wants to know, Mick, I'm wondering if a great comedy spot is as rewarding to you as a great match. It's easier on the body, but does it feel as special?
Yeah, I shouldn't, but it does. You could tell when we talked about Owen Hart and I stinking up arenas on purpose that I took a lot of pride in that. So I did sometimes really enjoy how that made me feel. One of the dark matches that we used to have, this is when before Raw eventually became so big that it was the brand and the name selling tickets,
yes,
not necessarily a couple of dark matches on it, although they do still advertise dark matches. And I believe it was a cage in which I brought out Mr. Sacco, and I think Stone Cold ended up taking Mr. Sacco and throwing him into the cage. Mr. Sacco came up with the color. So
oh my God,
that was a good spot. We did some fun stuff. We really enjoyed ourselves. Yeah, we really had a lot of fun a lot of the time, and they did find it almost as rewarding as having a great match.
So since Mr. Sacco had what we might call a virgin forehead, did you help him do the honors?
I think it was like a packet.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no need to go there.
Now, sometimes people think in wrestling there's a blood capsule, but we're not saying that. We're saying this may have come from a vendor stand.
When this was not ketchup, I think I asked Richie Posner to put a little something together for me.
For purposes of my story, it's just right off the hot dog.
Right off the hot dog. Yeah, for purposes of the story, exactly. But I remember being a fan and believing that wrestlers went under the ring for a bottle of ketchup.
Really?
That's like a lot of fans. You know, before Eddie Mansfield came out in 2020, in 1985, I was one of those fans who didn't know how it happened. didn't think it was real, even though you can see it pouring, and a blood capsule's not going to pour, neither is a packet of ketchup, but thought they might have a bottle of ketchup underneath the ring.
From a strictly wrestling standpoint, I'm going to ask a question. Again, you answer from a strictly wrestling standpoint. How many times did you put the condom in your mouth?
I tried it once and against Bart Gunn, and it went awry.
How so?
I think it was actually in my fingers for the mandible claw, and it broke too early, and got all over my arm, and they never explained why I had red liquid all over, and it stained. It didn't look like blood. It stained. It looked weird, and it was all over me. And that was the last time they did that.
Gotcha. Daniel Gibson wants to know, if there was a fourth face of Foley, what would it entail?
Oh man, this is something when I'm asked on the one-man shows about the one that got away. All right, just now remember, this is Impact Wrestling, right?
Right.
At the time when the Hulkster took Abyss under his wing, and I wanted there to be a storyline where the Hulkster explains to Chris that when he fell in love and showed his love in a physical way when he was 18 years old, that there were ramifications for that love, and there had been a love child unknown to Chris. Only call it a love child, right? Never specify the gender. And the love child would emerge wearing the Abyss Mankind-like mask with the name, ready, drum roll?
I'm ready.
Son of Abyss. That's gold, right? Is that not gold? Can you imagine the t-shirts? No one would be talking about Austin 316. And you can tell Bischoff that when I had this idea, it was with the idea that we would defeat two of his guys. Mystery partner comes out, boom, smoke clears, new champions, and I just pictured EB with the microphone going, son of Abyss, son of Abyss. Like, this would have caught fire. And instead, they did a little heel turn with me, and I never got to be son of Abyss. It's the one that got away.
Well, thanks to your revelation and the magic of podcasting, over at FoleyIsPodShirts.com right now, get your brand new Son of Abyss t-shirt. It's going to happen. Flying off the shelves. Son of Abyss. We got to get Abyss to a live show.
He works for WWE now.
Maybe he could be there in January.
He's a producer. Could you imagine that?
That'd be awesome. We made a little football bet where if I win the bet, he has to put me over clean. I told him I'd hook the leg because I respect him.
This is Abyss?
Yes.
How do you know? How do you know Abyss?
It's just one of those things. You hang around long enough, you eventually know everybody. Are you a big football fan?
Moderate, yeah.
He was silly enough to say in my presence a year ago that Joe Burrow was the next Joe Montana.
Could be. You don't believe it?
No.
He went to the Super Bowl in year 2.
There's no more Joe Montana.
He's got a great command of the field. Sees the field.
Will you stop?
Great attitude.
I see why you are the son
What
of
about
Abyss.
this Fields kid on the Bears? I know they're losing matches, but is this guy entertaining?
I love
what?
you. You got too much wrestling in you. You just said, I know the Bears are losing matches. Too much wrestling in you. Chase Terry wants to know, in the early days of Mankind, I swear I remember the mandible claw causing some opponents to cough up a mysterious white liquid. Yeah. Does Mick remember this? It really freaked me out as a kid. Tell me about that.
Undertaker did as well. I don't feel comfortable revealing that secret.
Oh, I get it.
I just don't. We did it a couple times, and I thought it worked well. And then I think the call was just made that the hold was going to be effective enough without the special effects.
Well, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp Therapy Online. And listen, there's a time in my life, I think it was 2006, where I really needed to talk to somebody. Therapy was a great help for me. And I want to remind you that, man, life doesn't come with a user manual. And I really do believe when you're trying to find some solutions and get some of those thoughts out there, therapy is a great solution. Unfortunately, since there is no user manual, and life sometimes gets hard on all of us, it feels normal to feel stuck. And that's why I recommend therapists. They've been trained to help you figure out the cause of the challenging emotions. They've been trained to learn productive coping skills that could be helpful to you. And it's also going to make therapy the closest thing to like a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million folks with licensed therapists. It's convenient, it's secure, and it's accessible anywhere because it's 100% online. And as I mentioned, I had a relationship go sideways in '06. I didn't really know how to recover from that. I needed to learn some new coping skills. Maybe you need to learn some new coping skills or self-empowerment. Maybe you're dealing with some trauma. Well, I recommend therapy, and everyone deserves to feel their best. And BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. As the world's largest therapy service, they've matched millions of people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists that are all available 100% online. All the benefits of in-person therapy, but it's more convenient, more accessible, and more affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. There's no waiting rooms, there's no traffic, there's no endless searching for the right therapist. So get unstuck with BetterHelp. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Foley. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Foley, betterhelp.com/Foley.
Hey, Conrad, that's really valuable, and I'm really grateful to these people sponsoring our show. It looks like I'm just randomly looking for my phone, but it just reminded me that I saw Jewel, this singer-songwriter, on TV for something called the hashtag Never Alone, and then challenge. And I said I wanted to be in on it, so I'm going to record a video for her. And the auction item I'm donating is going to be one of those Foley watch-along WWE or AEW, whatever you like, pizza parties.
That's cool.
So what we'll do is next show I'll record my video while we record the show, 30-second video about mental health, letting you know the challenges out there, that you're basically never alone. There are other people going through what you're going through, and then I have to call out to people and ask if they'll do the Never Alone Challenge. So it's kind of like Ice Bucket Challenge for mental health, and I will tell people where to go for that auction item. There's nothing like a Foley watch-along WWE pizza party. And I don't know if any of the other WWE superstars or Miz done those type of things.
Can I just recommend we change the name of that operation? Mick, are you not Mr. In Your House?
There you go.
I mean, it's a pizza party with Mr. In Your House. You're going to be in their house watching a pay-per-view. Come on.
All right. The In Your House pizza party.
Yeah.
All right. Hashtag
with Mr. In Your House.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. Thank you, Conrad.
Chip Maxey wants to know, which of Mick's persona would be best at giving a best man speech at a wedding reception? I personally would love to hear Mankind's. But who would be the best? I've done them
on Cameo, where they air them at the, and I think they work equally well. Cactus only appears for 10, 15 seconds at a time, never without the bloody headband. And my kids would ask me, why don't you do videos as Cactus Jack? I said, the other two characters are easy to do caricatures of. When I'm Cactus, I'm just an old guy with a wig.
Right.
And then I realized, well, bloody headband, in moderation, I can make that work. But I've really enjoyed the earnestness of the Mankind speeches, and then duding it up. It's just, I love being Dude Love more now in 2022 than I did in 97. And
wow.
That's a shoot, brother.
I was just thinking as we're talking through that about, best mans and wedding receptions and all that. Maybe we need to get you into the Holy Foley matrimony. Like, what if we got you licensed? The Universal. Oh,
I've done 4. I've done 4 weddings.
Have you done one as Cactus Jack?
No, just I've done them for Lady Frost and the Savage Gentleman.
Okay.
I did one for my friend Kid Cadet and her husband Jude, who's a great independent worker, and just made my Santa Nights List certificates for me. And I did Keith Lee and Mia Yims perform there, officiated their wedding, and then I also did one in Springfield, Missouri for a big contribution for wheelchair accessible van for a young lady with cerebral palsy.
Man,
So,
that's awesome. I had
pretty
no
cool,
idea.
right? Yeah, I do them. You know,
Do you do them in character, or do you do them as
I have
fun?
thus far not done them in character, but it's really just something for, when I say the boys, it's understood that that's now inclusive of the men and women
in the locker room.
in the locker
business.
room. But I think we can get away with
Yes,
the
we know
boys.
what that means, yeah.
So it's done for the boys. So like if Becky Lynch is listening in and she and Colby take that step, yeah, I'm
If they want to renew.
Oh, did they?
I think so. Did they not?
Without
Wow.
me.
Well, I was just
You're
hoping.
seeing a human heart breaking.
Listen, maybe
How could you do this to me?
you're probably right. No, I think it happened.
All
I'm
right.
pretty sure it happened.
Oh, man.
Because
Yeah.
Grillo will check it out. But in the meantime,
Nate is going to get married in the next couple of years again, right?
probably not.
You think he's done?
No, I do have.
Even let me just throw it out there for Rick. Even if he's not contemplating it, dude love presiding over Ric Flair's ceremony.
Would be tremendous.
Oh, it'd be great, right?
Well, I think you should still do it as Cactus Jack. I'll come back to that. But when he invited my wife and I to his most recent ceremony with Wendy, they called us on together, and I made a joke that I knew he would find funny, and I don't think she enjoyed it because they told us the date, and I said, I'm supposed to be out of town that day, but I'll get the next one. Rick thought that was hilarious. Wendy, not so much. I just figured,
You said it in front of her?
well, it was a joke.
Yeah, it is a good joke.
She did not find the humor in it. So, anyway, I think when you do Flair's 17th wedding, because he is a 16-time champion, but he's going for the gold of matrimony. He won 17 times. If you snuck out, and you could, you're finishing the ceremony as Cactus Jack. I now pronounce you blah, blah, blah. Now you can
Yeah.
bang, bang. Just saying, it could work.
But it is something I do. I think I do a pretty good job, but it's really just something for the boys.
Here's the last one, and this is a real question. We've had a lot of fun with a lot of shenanigans today, but now a real heartfelt, real-life question. Are non-wrestling questions okay? Because if so, I'd like to know how he's dealt with and helped his son who's on the spectrum succeed in life and learning. I, too, have a son with a similar diagnosis, stage 2. Thank you, Mick, for all the memories.
Yeah. I wore that bracelet for like 7-8 years. And the only reason I stopped is because the ones they sent me they were squeezing me. And then over time, you wear something for a few years, it breaks. Like the contraceptive I used in 87. Mickey is doing so well. He is doing so incredibly well. I think he's going to be here in the next a couple weeks from now, playing the guitar, and he's just so much fun to talk to. There's a great, if you don't mind this, I heard this story. He doesn't want me to post it, but I think I can tell the story. He's a huge fan of heavy metal, grunge, Christian metal, and there's a band called Shinedown. And I don't know if they're a Christian band, but they're very
not.
positive.
Yes.
Very positive message. And when Mickey and my wife Colette were flying from Orlando to Nashville, they recognized him on the plane. Brent Smith, I think is his name. Can we do a little check there, Mr. Grillo? And so my wife asked him for a photo on the plane. She's real quiet about it. And Mickey wanted a photo, but he saw at baggage claim that Brent was on the phone. But I guess Brent could see him like kind of looking in. So as soon as Brent put down the phone, having no knowledge of who he was or whose son he was, he went, he motioned to my son like that. And then he talked to him for a couple minutes. They took a great photo. And it was just really nice. It was just him taking a couple minutes out of his day to make a young man feel really special. And so I want to thank him for that. But Mickey's doing so well, he doesn't really want to be identified he doesn't feel like that defines him anymore.
Good.
And he was always wearing, the puzzle piece. He was really proud to be autistic. But he sees the world through a different lens, and I think it's a beautiful lens. And I think we're all different. No one individual is the same. No two individuals are the same. Last year we spent Christmas on Long Island, so we'd be around my mom. And I love extending the magic of the holiday season.
Yes.
So last year we went to Hershey, and Mickey says, "Dad, okay, it comes time we have to drive from Pennsylvania to Florida." He goes, "How far a ride is that?" I said, 12 hours. And most people, "Oh my God, 12 hours." He goes, "Yes." I said, "You happy about that?" He goes, "I can listen to my music." So he listens to that music, couldn't be happier. A couple hours go by, he takes off the headphones and we talk. A couple hours go by, he takes the headphones off, he talks. And then he goes, "Dad, who's this?" And I'm listening to John Anderson, who's an old school country guy with a very unique voice. I said, "This is John Anderson." Remember, he's never heard John Anderson before. And he goes, "Okay, but he sounds like Peter Griffin." And I listened and I was like, I listened to it like if you hear,
Peter Griffin.
"There's a little girl." It's like, that's Peter Griffin. Now I can't listen to John Anderson without my son talking about Peter Griffin. And he's just, man, you'll see. We'll have him in here. He's so much fun to talk to. He's such a great young man. He worked his first full-time. But you can see my eyes light up when I talk about him, right?
Yes.
And you have to go, he goes back in time. "Mickey, when was the last time that I got mad at you?" And he'll know the date and the year, and it was 6 years ago last time I expressed anger at my son, Mickey, because he gives me nothing to be angry about.
I love that, and I love that the stigma surrounding autism has changed.
Yeah.
Once upon a time it was considered less than. I think people are realizing now it's just different than, and different than sometimes can be a superpower. A guy like Elon Musk, one of the richest people in the world, is on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that, a generation ago, people viewed it that way. So I'm glad to know that that's changed, and I'm glad to know that he's doing great.
Elon Musk is not it's a perfect example of being a success. Not doing great with Twitter, right?
Well, it certainly feels as if it's not going as he had hoped.
Well, when you can pretend to be someone for $8 a month.
Well, they stopped that.
I know, but the whole idea was you can get your blue check mark with a parody account. You can fool people into thinking you're somebody. That was just ill-advised. I don't think he takes advice. And I think what I read this morning is he put out an email saying you have to be willing to work excessive hours at high intensity. So I'm going to say Elon's not looking at the bigger picture when it comes to this. Not denying him being an incredible industrialist. But man, I think he's dropping the ball with Twitter, which I said under his tutelage had become akin to swimming in a sea of turds.
It was
a pool of turds.
There was a fair amount of turds in there before Elon had it.
But the deal was you could navigate those waters and avoid the turds, and it got to a point where when you're constantly bumping into them, you got to get out of the pool. And so that's why I did.
And by the way, if you find yourself swimming in turds and you need a little pick-me-up, can I recommend Cameo?
Yes, you can. Thank you.
Definitely not a plug. It's more of a public service announcement.
It's going to be this, December is the biggest month of the year by far.
Yes.
I'm going to have a limit as to how many I do a day, so it's not dominating my my holiday season. But I love doing them, and I think I exceed expectations, and that's my goal in just about everything I do. So go to cameo.com/Mick Foley. Check out a few of the reviews and past videos, and maybe book one for yourself.
Breaking news. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins were married June of last year. You apparently got your invitation lost in the mail.
I didn't. Not only did I not preside over the ceremony, I wasn't invited to the ceremony.
It's a little disappointing.
Oh, Lynch. All right, I'm gonna text her right now.
Rhea Ripley might be your favorite new wrestler now. Next week we'll be talking about Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I'm fired up about that. If you've got a question for us, you can ask it over at Foley Is Pod. And, of course, the best way to introduce this show to the wrestling fan in your life is show them our YouTube. It's youtube.com/Foley Is Pod. We want you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and turn on that notifications bell. If you dig what we're doing here, throw us a like, hit the subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it. And in the meantime, we'll pray for Mick. I can't believe that
I'm going to reach out to Miss Lynch as we speak.
Correct this.
And I'll just tell you, who I've been spending a lot of time at the cons with is Dr. Baker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's part of the Primetime Appearances crew. DMD. So I'll do to her what The Rock used to do to me and others, which is leave an autographed 8x10 for her.
Are you moving into Tony Schiavone's woman?
No,
Is that what's happening here?
not at all.
That's clearly his territory.
Well, Tony did some great work with her, right? Like a mentor. All right, let me just say, oh man, I'm going to be heartbroken live. This is state of the art. Becky.
I mean, we were going to close the show, but I think we got to hang on now, don't we?
Becky, how did I not know that you were married? ? Congratulations to you and Kobe, and expect your Santa letter soon! ! There you go.
You're sending her kid Cole. I mean, they're going to have to learn,
What am I doing?
You got to send them lumps of coal. They got to learn.
No. I know. I'm with Fred Claus in this. There are no bad kids, right?
If Mommy and Daddy forgot to invite you to the wedding, they might also forget to ask Santa.
No. Santa is a positive. The one thing I ask people when I reach, hey, that time of year again, I say, I give them the option too, if they want to write their own letter and then have me put it in the Santa writing. I said that's great because you know exactly what you want. Just the only thing I ask is not to use Santa as like a bargaining chip. Like, you'd better behave. Or
I got you.
So in my telling of the legend, everybody's a good kid.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to end the show. We'll see you next week when we talk about Jim Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Can't wait to do it.
Right here.